This video is about basic principles on how you can respectfully engage with your audience. From my last video, you already know how to build and make your presentation more interesting and captivating. And now we're going to talk about communication fundamentals with your audience. Along with all tools and skills you're going to use to prepare your presentation, remember and respect the time of your audience. It's important to follow the timeline. You need to structure your presentation by essential pieces, introduction part, main part, and Q&A and closing part of your presentation. It means it can be 5-10 minutes of intro speech, then 25-30 minutes, for example, of the main presentation part that you would like to deliver, the main points, and then put a little time for questions, doubts, and closing part of your presentation. It's better not to overrun your presentation and try to speak very fast to cover all the topics in a limited time. It's even better to skip some of the paragraphs that are not that important for your main presentation idea than to start speaking very fast and try to tell everything that you would like to tell to your audience in a very short time. People will not be attentive to this, and people will be overwhelmed by the speed and energy that you put there to cover everything, like you lack of time, and of course it will seem as if you lack of preparation and structure skills. This is a big challenge, especially for not experienced speakers, to stay in a time slot allocated and not to be tempted to be wordy and say everything during the speech and try to chew everything and put it in the mouth of your audience. This kind of behavior and habit happens when speakers are so excited to have this attention for the first time if they're not very experienced, and they would like to tell even more than it was planned. But better to stick to the plan and timeline, better to not rush, and better to pace your speech, to use pauses. And if there is extra time, it's better to spend this extra time to questions, to conversation with your audience, to build this connection after your presentation than to rush everything. It's better to spend extra time for communication and closing part with interesting story or insights, or sharing some insights with the audience, which will build the connection as well. Here are some tips how to help yourself with the timeline. During the preparation period, you might use some devices to help yourself to record your voice. It can be voice to text or text to voice devices. Some softwares you can use to hear yourself and to understand how much time you spend for the whole material with your relaxed, usual speaking manner, as you can talk to your friend or family member. You may prepare a list of keywords and prompts and try to understand how much time you spend to deliver each of them. And also you can check how many filling words do you use and try to reduce them. Try to make your speech more concise, reduce wordiness, not necessary phrases, not necessary words, connecting words. Try to be focused on the content. Practice your speech at home with a timer and try to understand how much time you need for your usual speaking manner. And during your presentation on the stage, you might put your wristwatch on the table, or put a computer or phone timer just to look at the clock from time to time. And remember, only a few people will be annoyed by you if you finish a little bit earlier, but there will be a lot of people annoyed by you overrunning the presentation. Because time is precious and everyone would like to be on time if they were going after presentation to another place. And it's just respectful to think about other people's time. Finally, think about the introduction and closing part, what you're gonna say there, because people definitely will remember the first and the last part what you say, and people will remember how you make them feel more than what you said. So try to put more efforts to intro part and closing part to be more engaging, captivating, with interesting stories or insights with your personal stories or something else that you would like to put there. Now we're gonna talk about Q&A part. It's also very important part where audience will check your communication skills. Once you start answering the first question from the first person, all audience in the room will notice and feel your communication manner, how you can answer the person, how you are kind, answering, and attentive and active listener to the person, to the question. It's very important for people because people might be afraid of asking, or after the first question and after the first answer, they will be more open to you, more connected to you, to communicate with you more. It will give the audience the perception of you as a person, as a speaker and communicator. And overall, audience participation is a very effective and good tool during the whole presentation, not only in Q&A part, but Q&A part is important for closing part, for making people feel good about what they've learned, about gathering the feedback, about improving your presentation the next time. Here are some techniques how to make your interaction with the audience more effective and positive experience. First, your genuine interest. I already mentioned it in my previous videos that if you're really curious about your audience will feel it, will notice this for sure. And it's very important to develop this natural curiosity with this mindset that you can learn from everyone, from anyone in the room. And it will be very beneficial for you to listen and to gather feedback to improve your product and you as a speaker in the future. And yes, it also requires to be flexible, open-minded, and be interested in people. Second, positive energy and positive expectations. See all of those people in the room as your friends, as people who respect your time, respect your product, and come here to learn from you, to exchange this knowledge and energy and having a good time with you. So let it be. Let this experience positivity happen just naturally because you enjoy this time, you respect those people, and those people enjoy this time with you and respect you as well. This is the best way to look at any experience, life experience, and social interactions. Third, the most difficult part is answering the questions, dealing with the feedback and possible objections. I would like to highlight here that both communication should go in a respectful way, using appropriate language and sticking to the content of the presentation, not personalities. People don't like to be confused and our brain doesn't like to stay confused. So to reduce this confusion around when you're answering the questions or asking additional questions, try not to drift off the subject. Stick to the main point and main idea. The clearer you are, the more successful the outcome and feedback. If person asks the long-winded question, you might ask for clarification. Clarify respectfully, summarizing where you are with the recipient and what must be answered. You might say, just so I understand your question properly, you're asking, and so on. It will help you to reduce time spending for confusion around, and you will help the recipient to summarize, to ask the proper question, because sometimes people are afraid or not comfortable, so they don't know how to ask. So you will helping yourself and your audience to help to build this communication between you. Softening language. To make your communication more friendly and conversational, you should reduce the pressure and authority, interrogation type of communication, and using softeners like, so that I can answer your question properly, could you please give me more details on, and so on. It also helps people to feel better, to feel welcomed, to feel understood, and to be in connection with you. You might use different type of questions: open questions, closed questions, rhetorical questions, clarifying questions, and other types of questions. If you would like to get more information, use open questions starting with what, who, when, where, how, why. It's very useful if you're presenting to people and would like to show your interest, would like to build the connection, especially with people who are naturally shy and introverted. Also, it's helpful if you're presenting to a smaller group of people and you would like to get everybody involved in the activity, and people would like that for sure. And also it's useful if you would like to clarify what the person meant and what he or she said to fully understand the meaning and then answer correctly. Rhetorical questions are useful techniques on how to communicate your idea to people. It's effective and sounds conversational, but also allows people to think about the subject deeper and wider, to raise their objections and their opinions about the subject, to think about the subject. It can be used for open talk or to add some interest to a talk. It's also useful when you have impromptu speaking because you can repeat and use rhetorical questions while you're giving your mind and yourself time to think. The leading questions usually can be in the end of statement, pursuing people to agree or disagree with the statement. It can be positive or negative statement, and this little question in the end of the statement like aren't you, isn't it, can you, summons anyone to speak up, nod or shake their hand like agreeing or disagreeing. With this kind of answer, you can gather the feedback from the audience. You can see the average temperature in the room by using these questions. But be careful, do not overuse these questions because you would like to make your communication look more natural. Be careful with questions starting with why, because it might look like interrogation and can be discomfortable for some people. People might feel defensive because somebody is questioning their criteria, judgment, or criticizing their behavior. They might also feel that they need to justify their actions and their thoughts, their way of thinking, and it might be uncomfortable and it might lead to dissatisfaction. So instead of why do you think so? You might use sometimes what. What is it that led you to this conclusion? It looks more conversational and smooth, and it helps not to direct your question and reduce this interrogation part. Also use language softeners to make your question more smooth. If the person is making a general statement, you should ask some details to narrow down the question, because it's better and simpler to answer exact particular question which is aligned to personal needs of people, not a general one. Be aware of generalization and try to have some control over such questions and statements. Using and asking like, could you please tell me what do you exactly mean? Or what does it mean for you being, so on. Active listening. Already mentioned in my previous videos that this is important part to let people know your interest and that you listen to them. You might indicate active listening by your body language, your eye contact, by leaning to them, by paying attention. Show them that you are here, that you listen to them, that you acknowledge them, you acknowledge the question, that you're fully in the conversation with them. And also you can see more attentive people in the room who are showing their interest and their active listening with their body language too. And you might start with interaction with them first because you see and you know that they agree with you, that they are in accord with you. Maybe some of you are aware of echo technique. This technique is powerful because your audience hear what they said, the same words. Echoing gives people a feeling that you understand them, and it's also used in therapy, but it should be natural, not mechanical. And of course, you don't want to overdo this. Try to rephrase the statement and question, try to change some words and repeat them in a more concise way. Also, it's helpful if the whole room missed the question and you can repeat the question in this way. Dealing with objections. It has the same structure. It's a dialogue, it's discussion, respectful discussion, it's sharing viewpoints. Don't be afraid of it. First, make sure that you understand correctly the objection point and then start to explain or repeat the main subject in a more simple way, in a more concise way that person will understand correctly. And here you can use all your expertise, experience, storytelling, examples from your professional and personal life, everything that it can be useful to make people understand your point, your idea, your presentation in the best way. And most important, be respectful and patient. Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching this video and talk to you next time.